Welcome to Kingston's annual town meeting preview. I'm Janet Wallace, Moderator, and with me is Mary MacKinnon, the Chairman of the Finance Committee. Thank you, Mary, for joining me today for
My
this
pleasure, Janet.
review. Town meeting is scheduled to occur on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017, starting at 7 p.m. at the Kingston Intermediate School. The additional dates for town meeting will be Wednesday, May 24th, Wednesday, May 31st, and Monday, June 5th. Let's hope that we can get it done by May 31st. And all of those starts are 7 p.m. and all of them are at the Kingston Intermediate School. I wanted to let everybody know that we have 65 articles for our town meeting, and it is. And then we have the citizen petition articles for everybody to understand, filed by the citizens, different various citizens, is Article 6, Article 17, Article 22, Article 23, Article 25, and Articles 59 to 65. The warrant has been posted online, and all of the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee recommendations are also online for that. And I just want everybody to know, ladies and gentlemen, we have 65 articles to cover in 60 minutes. So buckle your seatbelt, and here we go. Article 1 is your annual reports. Again, the book will be available at town meeting with all of the different department reports in it, and I recommend everyone pick one up, and you can start perusing the reports written by every committee and board. Article 2 is establishing the revolving fund bylaw. This is new this year because we had a new statute, the Municipal Modernization Act. That went into effect in November of 2016, and it allows that instead of having to create these revolving funds every year, it allows to allow a bylaw to be created where these funds will now exist, these revolving funds will exist, and then what we have to do is fund them. I remind everybody the revolving fund is basically, the intent of it is to take money from fees paid by people participating in programs and then to be paid to fund the actual expenses of the activities and the programs. So we're having the same, we're creating the same 5 that we've created in the last few years, and that is the Recreational Programs Revolving Fund, Inspectional Services Revolving Fund, Senior Center Programs Revolving Fund, Adams Center Programs Revolving Fund, and the town's Electrical Vehicle Charging Station Revolving Fund. So all of those now would be created by an actual bylaw, and then we would do the actual funding. Which brings us to Article 3, which is the actual funding of all of these revolving funds. This year we have, and these are authorizing the total expenditures from each of these revolving funds. And I'm assuming, Mary, that you got these by taking into account what has been historically flowed through these type of accounts? Yeah,
and some of them are, there's enough room for growth, but the one thing that folks will notice is that the recreation program is increased over last year fairly substantially, and as you can imagine, our recreation programs are growing, and we need to make sure that we have enough capacity in order to run those programs, take in the revenue, and pay the expenses. So that's why you're seeing an increase.
And these funds that are going in these revolving funds aren't part of our general budget or any of our taxpayer
They are not.
funds.
It's for things like when kids, sign up for flag football or dance programs or all of the various activities that for example, Recreation Department operates. Those fees get deposited into the revolving fund. They pay the instructors. They pay for the supplies and materials.
So what we have is recreational programs is $305,000. Inspectional services is $75,000. Senior center programs is $50,000. Adams Center programs is $50,000. And the town's electrical vehicle charging station is $50,000. Moving on to Article 4 is our equipment article. It's the annual article, and we are expending this year $240,158 in total. $110,158 will be from previously appropriated unspent. In other words, it was appropriated at a prior town meeting, it was unspent, so it's coming back in to be reused or reassigned to something else. And the new money is the $130,000 from free cash. And Mary, can you cover what those appropriations are for this year?
Sure, absolutely. There's 9 items that make up our equipment article, and they are as follows. Technology purchases and expenses for our local school system, that covers Kingston Kingston Elementary School and Kingston Intermediate School. They have a 5-year plan for their technology needs, and what this is doing is allocating $105,000 to support their technology program, and this is for one-time expenses, not the expenses that they needed for like continuing subscriptions. This is really for equipment, routers, switches, cables, and things of that nature. So $105,000 for our school department. Within the facilities department, $23,000 for a quantity of 10 AEDs. These are defibrillators that will be placed in town-owned properties, and we've got them listed here. For example, the Highway Barn, the Reed Center, Opachinsky Complex, etc.
And that, again, is for the safety of the public.
Exactly. And that will complement, you'll also see in the capital plan that we have some AEDs in there for the police department, so we'll talk about that. And a couple of years ago, we had replaced 15 units for the fire department.
Right,
so
I remember that.
What we're doing is we're completing the entire suite of purchasing defibrillators throughout the town.
Great.
Within the fire department, there is a request for medical infusion pumps. These are devices that get attached to IVs for patient care to control the dispensing of medication to patients. So there's a quantity of 3 here. 1 will be assigned to each of our new ambulances, and then we will have 1 in backup rotation should either of those need to be replaced. The next item is Fire Department EMS training for $19,158. This is to send all 20 of our firefighters through a very highly specialized training program. Part of it is being held out in Cambridge. This will allow our first responders to get some high-intensity acute care for things like pediatric cardiac arrest and a lot of more serious conditions that are present in our community that our first responders need to be trained and equipped to react to. So this is for ongoing training for that. The next one is $10,000 for various property repairs and maintenance through the facilities department for things like the highway barn overhead doors need some repairs, the highway barn's roof needs a repair, and a couple of other items at the police station also need to be repaired. So those are itemized in the warrant book.
I did note, just for the public to
Sure.
understand, that $8,912 for this particular line item will also come out of the general budget. So $10,000 is coming from the equipment, but then we'll take an $8,912 from the
Right.
general budget.
So
Okay.
the
And that's in, I'm assuming, our budget that we're going to cover under Article 24.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. The request was for $18,000, $19,000 for a variety of property and repairs. And what we did is we compromised and agreed that we would fund a little bit more than 50% through the equipment article with the expectation, with the expectation that the remaining 50% could come through all of the property repairs and maintenance funding that's already included in the operating budget.
And that would be the facilities operating budget.
Well, there's some money in the facilities budget, absolutely, and then there's also other departments that also maintain their own property repairs and maintenance funding within their budget, so it's sprinkled in a couple of different places. The next one is for the police department for RAD training equipment, and this is for self-defense training classes that the police department conducts, and they use some safety gear, some protective equipment that is very old and needs to be replaced in order to provide these services to folks in our community. And I believe you're familiar with that program.
I am. They
Yeah.
presented to the Sampson Fund. Mhm.
The next one is for the Opachinsky Complex through the Recreation Department, $25,000. This is to continue our investment to improve the conditions at the fields. If folks remember, last year we had approved at town meeting $25,000 as a one-time expense because the fields had gotten into a state of disrepair and the Recreation Department needed some additional funding for turf management programs. Instead of putting it immediately into the operating budget, we wanted to see what kind of an ongoing investment it was going to require. As you can imagine, a lot of these repairs and programs are seasonal based on the weather. So the Recreation Department received funding of $25,000 last year. They haven't completed all of those services yet because they're going to do a lot of it during the springtime. So we're not going to see the full benefit of that yet. So what we're doing in this equipment article is to appropriate additional funding for year 2 of the program so that we get all the seasons encompassed and we get to see the true impact or benefit of that program, and then determine going forward how much would be required to maintain.
Better monitoring of the application of the funds.
Exactly.
Nice.
Next one is $6,000 for electrical panel surge protectors to prevent or to protect our buildings against lightning and power strikes, and these would be for the police department and fire department. And the last one is something that came in relatively recently, but this is a great thing, is our fire department had applied for a grant. It's an AFG grant, Assistance to Fire to the Firefighters grant, and they had applied for funding for 30 SCBA units, which are self-contained breathing apparatus. It's the air packs that our first responders wear when they go into a dangerous situation, and it's essentially a $250,000 to $300,000 expense. It's a massive expense for a very highly needed piece of equipment. We were the recipient. We were recently notified that we were awarded grant funds to defray the cost of that purchase. This $25,000 represents the town funds that we need to come up with in order to complete that purchase through this grant program.
And I understand the grant's for over $217,000. So we put up the 25, we get basically $250,000 worth of equipment. That's
exactly,
phenomenal.
and I'd like to congratulate the fire department for their hard work in achieving that.
So that's our total expenditures of $240,158 under our annual equipment. Now, moving on to Article 5 is our annual Sampson Fund appropriation. For all of you, the Elizabeth B. Sampson created a trust in which the interest generated from her investments, it can be expended by the Elizabeth B. Sampson Fund trustees, I of which am one of those. This year we voted to have $22,500 to the Bradford House for stepping stones, and if you've ever been there, it's to get up to the house and the level because it's that hill, and it's more for accessibility by our elders in handicap. The Sampson Park design works for $3,000 to bring us in with the changes that have occurred down at Elm Street and down at our Sampson Park. $3,000 for our annual event, the Illuminaries. $2,000 for our downtown beautification. As you know, we've done that a couple of years in a row now, and the Kingston Garden Club has done a really wonderful job. The $6,120 for the police department's National Night Out. It has grown. It's phenomenal. It's a fantastic night for anybody to join. We have $5,000 for our Grays Beach movies, and that's a great thing to take up down at the Grays Beach. We have $1,250 for the Font School Art program, which is going to be wonderful. We have to put all new old photographs of the students and the teachers who attended the font school. So those will now go up inside the fonts, so it's just a wonderful educational portion. And then we have the annual $3,500 for the Memorial Day Parade, for a total expenditures from the Sampson Fund of $26,370. Article 6 is a petition article, and it is to change the quorum at town meeting from 100 to 500. So again, that's a petition article. We're still waiting on a motion. Technically, to be honest with you, all of these petition articles are actually written like motions. So even though they all indicate on the warrant that they're waiting for motions, the article itself is a motion. But anyhow, that is somebody seeking to change the quorum at our town meeting. Article 7 is the budget for our town land renewable energy. This is basically the Article 7 Renewable Energy Enterprise Fund budget. This is the pass-through where the revenues come in from Eversource, and then they go to the general fund to pay the vendor for the services. You want to correct me on that?
I'm going to jump in if I can.
Sure.
This particular article, number 7, is the Renewable Energy Enterprise Fund for the Kingston Wind
right.
Independence Turbine.
Yep.
This does not go through the general fund at all. This one is strictly and exclusively an enterprise fund. So for this particular operation, we have a power purchase
Right, I do.
agreement.
It's only if there's remaining funds, and there have never been.
Exactly.
Any
Well,
remaining funds.
then
Yeah.
when there's a surplus, there's that 75-25% split.
It goes into the...
Yep,
Yeah.
so eventually funds do get back into the general fund, but not during the course of the fiscal year during regular operations. It happens via a year-end transfer.
It's right, only the ending ones, right.
Right.
So it's in and out, which is why it's an enterprise fund.
Exactly.
And again, you ladies and gentlemen, it's the same as it was last year, $675,000. Article 8 is the transfer from the Renewable Energy Fund surplus revenue to the grant and loan opportunities. If you remember, we made a vote at, and I'm trying to remember which town meeting that was, what year it was, that we voted that 25% of the surplus funds would actually go to fund and spend on grants and loans for renewable energy improvements from private citizens can do to their home under qualified projects. So this year this year we have Actually, this one is still pending for a sum. Last year, I know it was $35,044.
Yeah,
Is there any indication on when the sum will come through?
So there was a sum that was sent out, I believe it was yesterday, and we are still confirming that number. It is down because if you remember the
turbine was down for a while.
The turbine has been down for quite some time, and it's not generating the revenue like it used to. But I would encourage people to look up this grant program because there are funds available, and it's any Kingston resident who is doing any kind of energy improvement to their home, whether it's solar panels or windows or appliances that are all energy efficient. If you have a mass save energy audit and you have performed some sort of improvement or upgrade to your home, you are eligible to receive up to 25% of the purchase cost, up to a maximum of $1,000 per year. So the applications are available on our town website, and I strongly encourage folks, anybody doing improvements, to take advantage.
And it could benefit each individual citizen that wants to try to do that.
Yep.
Article 9, is the wastewater department enterprise fund budget. This is the annual article, and this is the wastewater department budget. I do note that this year it's $3,664,289, which I have down from $5,000 from last year.
There you go.
On that one. Article 10 is the wastewater department's surplus revenue appropriations. Again, this is an annual article where the surplus from the wastewater revenues is used to purchase and replace, and this year it is to purchase and replace a pumping station, septic pumps, purchase and replace boilers, vehicle replacement, fund reports, analysis, and upgrades required to satisfy the wastewater groundwater discharge renewable permit, and any unforeseen expenses associated therewith. And that is allocating $400,918. Article 11 is the wastewater department acceptance of the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 83, Section 15D. This is seeking the acceptance of the state statute, which will allow the town to spread future sewer assessments out to a 20 to 30 year. So people who are coming online with the new available things can now expend the costs that they would have to have out over to 20, 30 years, as opposed to having to pay it immediately and up front. So that, again, is a benefit to the citizens. Article 12 is the Water Department Enterprise Fund budget. It's the annual budget for our water department. And this is $1,841,190, of which $1,525... $1 million, sorry, what did I say? $1,525,043 is to come from the water enterprise revenue, and then another $316,147 to come from that enterprise revenue into the general fund to finance the cost of benefits and other things that come into and are paid for by the town.
Yep, it's called, indirect costs, the services that we provide to run the enterprise operation.
Great. And it's still funded from the revenue account.
Correct.
The Article 13 is the Water Department's surplus revenue appropriations, and that is an article to use the surplus revenue of $300,000. And this year, again, we have this annual article, is to paint the water tanks, is the cost for that. Yep. Under Article 13. Article 14 is the seeking to create, Water Department creation of a stabilization fund. They are seeking to create a Water Department stabilization fund, as is now permitted by state law, to meet the capital needs of the water department. So again, it would be a stabilization fund, which is basically, as we talk about savings, and the issue with that is when you vote to put it in, you have to have a 2/3 vote. When you vote to take it out, it's a 2/3 vote. So this is just the water department trying to create their own savings from their own revenue, right?
So this is a new article, a new proposal by the water department, and we'll hear some discussion about this on town meeting floor.
Great.
Yeah.
Article 15 is the Water Department transfer to stabilization fund, so hence we need the prior article for this one to go through. If the prior article is not voted, then there wouldn't be any transfer. But what they're seeking is, if the prior article votes the stabilization fund, they're seeking to deposit $300,000 into that stabilization fund. Article 16 is the Water Department request for repurposing of 2012 annual town meeting, Article 16. They want to use $156,372.22 from the Elm Street Bridge water main article from 2012 to the meters article, and the purpose is to conversion of all the telephone read meters to all radio read meters in the town of Kingston. So they want to transfer those funds over.
Yeah, can I just real quickly, one of the questions we came up, that we asked in the Finance Committee is, why are we doing this? And you have to remember that a lot of folks no longer have landlines.
Right.
And so they do need to be converted.
Thank you for
to
reading that,
radio.
because I forgot to mention that was one of the reasons why, from telephone, which most people don't have, not most, but a lot of people don't have anymore. Article 17 is a petitioned article to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 4, Town Officers, Boards, and Committees. And this article is seeking to limit the selectmen from holding any elected or compensated office with the town of Kingston during the term of their time on the Board of Selectmen, nor accept or compensated or appointed to a town office or employment within 1 year after the termination of their time on the Board of Selectmen expires, with current members of the Board of Selectmen exempt until their next election period. So that's a petition article, and people are looking for that to pass. Article 18, fiscal year 2017 budget. This is our intra-department transfers. As you all know, these are our anticipated shortfalls from fiscal year 2017, where you take it from one budget that had extra to transfer it over to a budget that was deficient. And when we look at that, we have unspent appropriations of $101,045, and then we're looking for free cash of $134,132 for a total allocation of $235,177 to be spent into the new departments, which would be legal, $60,000, accounting, $20,000, fire, $15,000, treasurer, $1,300, and snow and ice, $138,877. Again, that was the fiscal year 2017, which is the current year. Again, a fiscal 2017 Article 19 is earned retirement buybacks. This article seeks to fund sick and vacation buybacks for a retiring employee, and that would be an individual from the wastewater department, if I remember. And that's for $24,003. Again, it's to just meet the contractual obligations of somebody retiring. Article 20 is also an annual article. This is the wage and personnel bylaw article. Amendments and compensation. So again, it's to set the wages and personnel and compensation schedules for schedules numbers are lettered A, B, C to accommodate. And this year they're looking for, and it's been traditionally a 2% COLA in that ballpark, but they're looking for a 2% COLA increase. And across the board, that would be $42,686. I do remind you, last year was $56,543. I was doing an annual crossover, but it always depends on the number of employees and the number of...
Well, what typically happens in this particular article is it's both the COLA recommendation from the Wage and Personnel Board as well as any reclassifications.
Right.
So last year we actually had a couple of...
There's no reclassification.
And this year there's no reclassification.
Right, it's just the COLA.
For now, because they're doing a wage study,
Right.
and so everything is on hold until the completion of that wage study.
Right, we thought it might come through at this town meeting, but I saw that they took that article off. They're not quite ready to go forward with that full reclassifications. Article 21 is elected officials' compensation. This is, again, our annual article setting the elected officials' compensation. I will point out the Moderator, the Board of Selectmen, the Health Board, the Board of Assessors, the Water Commissioners, Planning Board, and Sewer Commissioners. Stipends are all remain the same. There has been increases to both the Collector, the Treasurer, and the Town Clerk, which is $7,361, which some of that, again, is in the COLA departments, correct? And reclassifications as well. And this is that whole, they're still trying to align them into their personnel.
So this actually is sort of, what happens with our elected officials, as is the case across most communities in Massachusetts, the Finance Committee is the recommendation that is brought forth to town meeting. So it's the Finance Committee's recommendation to set the salary of these elected officials. It is, of course, town meeting's duty to take their vote. So this is our recommendation. This recommendation represents essentially a 3.7% increase from the compensation of last year to this year. And what that represents is we took a look at the wage and personnel schedules, and although these employees are not tied to a schedule, that movement, if you will, from one step to another is essentially the equivalent of 3.7%. The Finance Committee felt strongly that having both a step increase on top of a COLA increase is a very generous compensation package, and it's a trajectory that the town of Kingston doesn't see as sustainable in order to have those levels of compensation for these kinds of positions. So this represents a 3.7% increase in each of these positions.
It's a step increase, not a COLA increase.
Correct.
So,
and if you remember correctly, that this article was also much higher last year.
Oh, it was. Yes.
Because what happened last year is that the town meeting body had approved converting our treasurer's position from part-time to full-time,
which would have made a huge different impact in
exactly.
salary. Okay. Article 22 is a petition article, elected or appointed board officials' term limits. This is, again, a citizen seeking for no person should be elected or appointed to the same board more than twice. So that would mean nobody can serve more than 2 terms, which, you know, obviously, when this came up, my concerns were mostly Finance Committee, because it takes so long for somebody to come up to speed on the Finance Committee to be really a valuable asset to the Finance Committee. So, but we'll see what happens on the floor with that. Article 23 is another petitioned article, and it again is to amend the general bylaw. And like the prior article, but this article is exempting Finance Committee and CPC and Agricultural Commission
I'm
from
curious
these.
to see where these came from.
I know. I'll be interesting to see how these are debated on the floor, because we had the first one came in and then the second one, and of course, the second one addresses what my concerns have been about the Finance Committee. So an interesting part of that. Article 24 is the budget, and at this time, this is our annual budget. We refer everyone to the budget that's online, and it is online if you go in and you see under town meeting, and then if you look right under the first day of town meeting and click, you see the warrant. That's on there, but I also point out that the budget book, Mary just informed me tonight, she posted it last week, the entire budget book with all the schedules and everything that the Finance Committee puts out are available under the Finance Committee section on the town webpage. So you can go right on and you can study those. That allows you to study them prior to getting into town meeting and finally, you know, looking at them for the first time in print. So, and I want to remind everybody that Mary will be doing her full financial update at town meeting. We don't have the time today to do a full one, but I am going to ask her right now to summarize the budget and where we're at this year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Janet. So the FY18 budget is available. I encourage you to all take a peek at it. What you're going to see in our budget book is that we are recommending a budget of $46 million, $46.1 million. That is an increase of $2 million over FY17. What that represents is a 5% increase in the overall budget from FY17 to FY18, and it takes into consideration things like contractual increases for compensation, as well as vendor price increases, as well as some changes in services to across departments. Of that 5% increase of the entire overall budget, the way it breaks down is that about 3.5%, 3.52% is attributable to the tax levy. So that's the increase that people, at this point, that's the estimated increase that people will see in their tax bill. Some of the big budget drivers that are making up that $2 million increase are essentially just a handful of items. First and foremost is employee benefits. Year over year, we talk about the cost of health insurance, cost of life insurance, the cost of pension obligations, and the sum total of the increases that we're seeing this year for employee benefits is about $390,000. That represents for our, and it impacts our employees as well, not only our residents who are paying our tax bills, but our employees who are paying their fair share for health insurance. It impacts them as well. So $390,000, and it's in effect a 12% increase in health insurance for all of our town employees.
Yeah, we're seeing that across the board on all, not just municipalities, it's across the board in all employment.
Yeah, so we're catching up from those couple of years where we had 0% increases,
that
which was
very
really
nice period,
yeah, unfortunate. The other big driver is our school departments. So our local schools, which are the elementary and intermediate schools, they're up about $700,000. I'll get to that in a second. And then the Silver Lake Regional School System is up about $800,000. So of the overall budget increase, $1.5 million is attributable to the school department. The interesting thing thing to note is that even when you take a look at those increases for our school department and the cost of education, the allocation within our budget between town and school departments is still a 50-50 split. But what we saw this year for our school departments at Silver Lake, Kingston has had a recalculation of their minimum contribution. So basically, the state comes in and
part of the regional, part of the region.
Right.
Okay.
So we're one of 3 communities in a regional school system, and the state comes in with a calculation every year for every single school across the Commonwealth, and it tells you what you need to spend for education and what each community in that district needs to spend at a minimum. And what we saw is Kingston's calculation was increased by the state this year, and that impacted us right off the top about $300,000. The second part of that with Silver Lake is that we have increased enrollment. So we've had some classes that were sort of bubble sizes, bigger classes moving through Silver Lake, as well as folks moving into the community. We saw our share go up this year, so our student enrollment went up, which then translated into another couple of $100,000 for Kingston to bear the cost of that increased student enrollment. So a big part of the Silver Lake increases this year were based on basic calculations of the number of students in the building and what the state tells us that we need to contribute, in addition to their contractual increases of health insurance and teachers' contracts. So that's what happened for Silver Lake. There
was also a significant increase in the special needs,
so
which
that
are mandatory, again,
right.
Part of the overall expenditures there.
So that, we did see some in Silver Lake for special needs, but the real impact with special needs is what we saw at the local level with the element. Exactly. So a big portion of the increase here that we're talking about for the local schools is directly attributable to the cost of special education. We have a very, very big deficit in this fiscal year, FY17, and that deficit is going to carry over into 18, as well as the increased cost of special ed extraordinary expenses that we're seeing. So I'll explain more of that on town meeting floor.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary. That's a great jump in for citizens to listen to and look at some of your charts.
Absolutely.
In regard to what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we need to run through a couple of these to get through. We have Article 25, which is a petition article, which is public voting by secret ballot, and they're seeking to have that move that all votes by the public be executed via secret ballot at public voting stations. So we'll have to hear from the MacKinnon on that, because that would mean that town meeting would have to go into the cafeteria and do it at a voting thing for every vote on every article. So that we'll have to see what they're proposing on that. Article 26 is our OPEB, and it's basically transfer to other post-employment benefits, OPEB, health insurance liability. This is all our post-employment benefits to non-pension, right, that are non-pension.
To pensioners.
To pensioners.
Retirees.
But I meant it's not part of pension, it's to pensioners. And these are from free cash, and we have annually been funding about $100,000 into the OPEB. I mean, some years,
Somewhat.
yeah. So this is basically us depositing into what we are also quite deficient in.
Correct.
The area of.
Correct.
Article 27 is the transfer to the stabilization fund, again, an annual article. This is our free cash, our savings for the town of Kingston. And again, this year, we're looking to put $100,000 in. I know last year we were able to put $200,000 in. This year, there just isn't as much, as Mary has indicated, with the increases in the budget and costs, that the Finance Committee went more conservative into the savings. Article 28 is the transfer to the stabilization fund for capital projects. This is basically our savings going to capital projects. There'll be no motion on this article. Article 29, transfer meal tax surplus revenue to the stabilization fund for capital projects. If you all remember a couple of years ago, we put in the local meals tax, and basically that revenue generated, we had agreed that there'd be a percentage that went to the stabilization fund for capital projects, and that is the expenditure of these funds from the meals tax, and this year it's $280,947 going into the stabilization fund for capital projects. Article 30 is our Chapter 90 funds. This is the money we get from the state that goes into and is paid to us, and we're accepting the funds for the use in our streets. Article 31, again, is our capital equipment project funding. This is an annual capital equipment article. We're looking at $394,765. That is kind of in a total appropriation. of which $280,947 to be transferred from the Capital Project Stabilization Fund, again, that's the local meals tax, and $113,818 from free cash. Mary, can you describe what we're expending the funds on this year?
Absolutely. I'm going to try to run through them pretty quickly. For the police department, this $50,000 to purchase one patrol car, which is one of those SUV Interceptor models. For the police department, $11,000 for the purchase of 10 sets of active shooter ballistic gear. This is protective gear to go into a dangerous situation. $13,800 for the purchase of 6 AED units. So this is the other piece of the AED purchase that we were talking about, and those would go into the trunks of the police cruisers and assigned to each of the vehicles so that they would be
because
available.
Because sometimes they're the first responders.
Exactly. $17,500 for an insulation repair project over at the Council on Aging, and this is to cover a pipe that had burst a couple years ago, and this is to properly complete those repairs. $16,000 for the installation of safety guardrails at the various playgrounds, Opachinsky, Captain Bailey over at the Reed Center, Grays Beach, and at the basketball court. And this is to install wooden structures that are guardrails at the end of the parking space so that it's a protective measure so that cars don't jump into the play areas where children are. The next one is $20,000 for 4 new voting tabulators. So these are the electronic devices into which we put the ballots in. Our equipment is incredibly old and is becoming unserviceable, so this will secure a brand new technology. Bear in mind that the previous ones lasted about 15 to 20 years, so this is we're hoping for a similar investment in this one as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's only $1,000 a year.
Exactly. The next one is $30,000 for refurbishing a 2003 pump engine for the fire department. There's some corrosion and some other repairs that are needed to be done on this particular piece of apparatus to extend the life of that vehicle, so $30,000. $132,465. This is for the first lease payment of the 2 brand new ambulances that we purchased last year. So last year we made our first down payment, and we did that out of free cash. Now we are entering into a 3-year lease for those vehicles. At the end of the lease, we will own them. So this is the first of 3 payments of $132,000. The next one is $32,000 to replace 4 garage doors at the Pembroke Street Fire Station. The doors have suffered some pretty serious water damage and are having problems operating properly. We need to make sure that our apparatus can get in and out of that facility, so we need to replace those doors. And the last one is $72,000 to replace at the transfer station the compactor arm. So this is when we stick our trash into the hopper, the big mechanical arm that pushes it in and compacts it. We need to replace one of those. So that's $72,000, and that completes the capital the capital plan for FY18.
Great, thank you. Article 32 is an amendment to the general bylaws to add a new Article 21 to Chapter 4 Affordable Housing Trust. This is adding a new general bylaw, which would be the Affordable Housing Trust, and it's memorializing a state statute. So this will be discussed. I believe that they're going to have some handouts on this one in regard to using, and then with that, we move into some of the others, which will be to fund it in order to use some of our affordable housing and everything under our CPC. Article 33 is the beginning of our Community Preservation Committee. Article 33 is the administrative budget, and this is the annual administrative budget for $12,850. The Article 34 is our bucket allocation under the CPC, which is, again, the Community Preservation Fund appropriations. And we're putting $25,700 in open space, historic resources, and community housing, which is the affordable housing. So those are the 3 for the total of $77,100 into the bucket allocation under the CPC. Article 35 is, again, a CPC article for appropriations. They're seeking for the Fawn School window restoration. This is to replace the windows, repair sashes, the stops and waits, which are the old stops and waits in the old antique houses, to do priming, painting, reinstall, and then repaint the exterior. Again, this is all coming out of the historic bucket of our CPC, and this is $9,800 for all of that. Article 36 is a CPC seeking plans to, for the old burying ground historic cemetery preservation of master plan. This is the historic graveyard that's next to the Unitarian Church, and they're seeking I can't get that out. They're seeking a plan to determine how to best preserve that historic burial ground, and I let remind everybody that Governor Bradford, our own Governor Bradford, is buried there. And they're seeking $40,000 for that historic project in order to determine how best to preserve the old memorial stones. Article 37 is the Community Preservation Fund appropriations, and this is the funding of the Kingston Municipal Affording House Trust Fund. So like our Article 28 was proposing the creation of the Affordable Housing Trust, this would then be funding the Affordable Housing Trust, and they're seeking $600,000 from the CPC, and that would be the monies that have been built up in the community housing funds to be transferred over to this trust. And the intent of this is for the funding the trustees can seek and provide ways to increase affordable housing in the town of Kingston. We are deficient in our numbers, and they're seeking to apply those funds in a more proactive way. Article 38, Community Preservation Fund appropriation again, Opachinski basketball court fencing. This is seeking $11,328 to purchase and install fencing in the Opachinski basketball courts. This will complete the enclosure of the second court. So that would complete that project. Article 39 is Community Preservation Fund appropriation for Grays Beach playground fence replacement. This is $25,000 to purchase and install fencing for the Grays Beach playground to upgrade to the recommended level of fencing that is recommended for town playgrounds. Article 40 is the transfer of town-owned property to the Kingston Affordable Housing Trust. This is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to transfer. It's a triangle piece of property at the end of Copper Beach by Marion Drive that's next to the school to the Affordable Housing Trust to allow them to proceed with any programs that they may be able to deal with in regard to the affordable housing. Article 41 is the Business Community Partnership. The Board of Selectmen wants to create a Business Community Partnership Committee. Their intent is to fund partnership between business community and the town of Kingston. They're seeking to have the board or a committee formed. It would be appointed by the Board of Selectmen only. It would contain a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Planning Board, a member of the Kingston Garden Club, a member of the Kingston Business Association, and a Kingston business owner. So they're seeking that, and they're seeking $10,000 to fund into that committee and partnership in order to build what they're talking about as community partnership between businesses in the town of Kingston. Article 42 is stormwater permitting and compliance. This is going to be a multiple-year project. This is the first of 5 years to go through a permitting process to stay in compliance with the new regulation. They're seeking $70,000 to go through this, and this is all part of the Conservation Commission and all of this in regard to the stormwater permitting.
Yeah, this is it's a Massachusetts mandated DEP, permitting process.
Article 43 is the Grays Beach use designation and coastal restoration and repair. I have been advised that that article will not be moved. Article 44 is the codification of the town clerk's records. I've also been advised that that article will not be moved. Article 45 is the LED street lighting. Did I say lightning? Street lighting. This is a green energy resolution that they're looking to see if all new lighting can be LED, both on our streets and our parking lots in the town of Kingston. Article 46 is the establishment of a community farm. Again, this is a resolution to create a community farm at the Callista property, which is down by the Budweiser plant. Article 47 is the zoning bylaw and subdivision regulation update funding. They're seeking $90,000 fund to study to review all of our bylaws and subdivision regulations for a master plan. In other words, to update everything that we have in play existing now and also where we can go in the future. Article 48 is amendment to the zoning bylaw to create a mixed commercial district. This is the development near the Walmart. This is the Saxon Partners. I know they appeared to the Finance Committee, and we'll be receiving a presentation on this particular article. And they're looking to create a mixed commercial district, and this is, we've seen about this in regard to having both residential and some commercial.
Right. And this is just the zoning bylaw?
Correct.
This is not the moving
Project
forward with
itself.
the full project. So this is just the zoning to even get them...
To be able to present a project.
Exactly. To get it off the ground, right.
Article 49 is amendment to the zoning bylaw, inclusionary zoning. I expect a handout at this, on this article, and this is to clarify inclusionary housing. This is again part of the affordable housing in different areas, and to establish a density bonus is what they're referring to it as, which in regard to where they can do particular affordable housing construction.
Right.
Article 50, amendment to the zoning bylaw, short-term rental. This is an amendment to the zoning bylaw for short-term rentals. Primarily, it's about the B&Bs.
The Airbnb
and
thing,
the
yeah.
Airbnbs and things that are happening. As you all know, that's become a much more popular, and we're trying to stay ahead of that. And we have Kingston 2020 coming up, so there's going to be many more opportunities and more people coming to town for that special event of the 400th anniversary of the landing of the Pilgrims. Article 51 is the amendment to the zoning bylaw, rezone map 74, lot 7 and lot 9-1, which everybody just goes, what? That's to amend the zoning bylaw. It's to extend the 40-hour zoning district to include the MBTA property area. So again, to extend the 40-hour up in the area where the train station is. Article 52, amend to the zoning bylaw to issue a temporary moratorium relating, regulating recreational marijuana. As you all know, marijuana was voted in the state in December. It actually became effective. This is seeking a temporary moratorium on the recreational marijuana establishments in the town of Kingston, and this is we're doing this actually at the recommendation of town council, to establish that we could put in place specific regulations and zoning bylaws regarding where they'll occur and where they'll be located. Article 53 is the street acceptance at Gallen Road, and again, this is the street out by the near the MBTA, and the planning board will report on this because they had to go through the planning process. Article 54, street acceptance, Marion Drive. Again, this is out by the MBTA, and they would have gone through the planning board process as well on that one. Article 55, street acceptance, Harvest Drive, Cook Avenue, Daniel Lane, Wilder Avenue, and Winslow Drive. This is up in the McFarland Farms Phase 1, and this is town meeting in 1996 voted to accept these streets. Town meeting in 1999 voted to take them. The developer never did deeds or easements, and this is to finalize the taking of those under that subdivision project. Article 56, street acceptance, McFarland Drive, Rigdale Drive, Jacqueline Lane, and Erica Lane. And again, just like, again, it's McFarland Farms, same, it's to take the streets that are, these streets, though, are particularly deteriorating and causing a lot of havoc. So they're looking at taking them so that they can be repaired. And right now, we have no means and ability to repair those. Right. Article 57, amendment to the, again, that will be under the planning board. We'll have recommendations on that. Article 57 is an amendment to the general bylaw, Chapter 7, Public Ways and Places, 7-1-6, discharge of firearms on public ways. Ironically, this is being put forward by, I thought this initially was the police. Yeah, this is put forward by the conservation agent requesting a change to the bylaw regarding the use of firearms on conservation land. So obviously she'll be making a presentation regarding that in protecting and when and where hunting and other things can happen on conservation land. Article 58 is the relocation of Rabbith, I can never say that road, Rabbith Road easement. And just to let everyone know, this was a town-taken easement, part of a land court case that resolved in 2015 because it crosses a lot, Rabbith Road, problem. Rabbith Road was laid out incorrectly, and it basically goes over a lot, which they can't lay out, so this is resolving that easement, that it's a street. Article 59 is a petition article. It's to rezone industrial to commercial industrial park. This one, we're again waiting, but as I indicated previously, all of these petition articles really are motions, so by unto themselves. And this is to amend part of the bylaw, part of land from industrial to commercial and industrial. We'll have a presentation, I'm sure, by the petitioner. Article 60, petition article, amend zoning bylaw, commercial district, mixed-use residential. I think it speaks for itself in regard to, we'll have to listen and hear from the petitioner and what they're seeking on that. Article 61 is a petition article, street acceptance, and this is Gilfeather Lane and McFarland Drive. Again, this is McFarland, but this was Phase 2, and to see if these streets will be accepted as well. On this one, we truly are waiting for a motion, and I believe it also had planning board. They're waiting for some planning board activity on that one as well.
Yeah, I think they had a meeting the other night.
That's what I understood. Article 62 is our petition article, the extension of Smith's Lane. And this is their petitioner is seeking to have the Board of Selectmen investigate to extend Smith's Lane, and from what I understand on the article, to go across Crescent Street and all the way over to 3A. So if you're familiar with that, where Smith's Lane ends, you go up Crescent Street, take the right onto Smith's Lane or the left. They're looking to have that extend right into 3A. And I believe that would be right where the old Cumberland Farms was.
I was just going to say, right through the parking lot?
And the old Cumberland Farms. So we're also, that one again is already indicated as a motion, but we'll have to hear from the petitioner. Article 63 is a petitional article on William Gould Way, and this is seeking for the Board of Selectmen to allow William Gould Way to continue to the town of Plymouth. This has been debated with the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen have been to meetings with the town of Plymouth. Town of Plymouth is very seeking for this way to be open. This is down by, if you're not familiar, down by where Lowe's, you go down to Lowe's and the road ends. Town of Plymouth is looking to connect it in order to have part of a district open there for them. And so this is, again, it would be seeking the Board of Selectmen to allow it to happen.
And we've been very reluctant for years
right.
in order to keep commerce within Kingston.
Right. So I think that that's going to be discussed, obviously, on the floor as well. Article 64 is a petition article for a full-time town engineer in lieu of peer review. Right now, there's an article seeking a Board of Selectmen investigate the elimination of a peer review engineering review. Eliminate peer engineering review in cases and hire a full-time town engineer. And so instead of having that peer engineering review. So we'll have to hear from the petitioner on that, on the benefits, and obviously I'm sure there'll have to be some information on the costs because we have the peer review. What is the cost of the peer review? What's the cost of hiring a full-time town engineer?
Yeah,
so
and
that would be,
yeah,
I'm sure the finance committee will
be. And the interesting thing is, and I know we have a couple of minutes if you don't mind,
yeah.
We have a ton of petitioned articles on the warrant this year, and unfortunately we don't have names of who's submitted them, so it's really hard for us to do research and gather information, so we're going to be doing all of this for the first time on town meeting floor. A lot of these are very interesting, and this, of course, is one that has a financial impact.
Right.
And so we don't have any information because we don't know who the petitioner is and we don't know what the details are. So I encourage people to attend town meeting and to hear these things because oftentimes a lot of our residents have great ideas. And I'm not saying that any of these are going to go forward or not go forward, but to be able to have the opportunity to know who these folks are and to ask questions and do some research would be a real great benefit for a lot of folks.
I am aware that the Board of Selectmen, actually Laurie Z had implemented just recently that any petition article coming in has to have a person to contact. So that's going to be very important for all of us because like this petition article, the Finance Committee could have requested from the person to come, meet with them, and review the financial aspect of it. So there could be a little bit of investigation, which is what happens on all articles that are presented that have any financial background. All of the articles are vetted by the Finance Committee as they're vetted by the Board of Selectmen. And each are looking at different aspects of what's important under this article. So it's very important, whether they're coming from our own departments or they're coming from petitioners.
Right.
So that's going to make a big difference this year, and it only just got implemented. So I think some of the later petitioned articles that were submitted might have contact people. This wasn't one of them, but so we'll have that for future years. So that was a good institution by Laurie Z regarding seeking applicants, because I called, as you all know, at my meeting, at the meeting with the Board of Selectmen, I had indicated I was going to call people. And it's very difficult. There isn't one phone number on any of these petition articles in order to reach out and contact somebody. So it's very interesting in that way. So we have that one. It will have to be discussed at town meeting. We have Article 65, which is a petition article to amend the general bylaw, Article 11, general provisions governing officers, boards, and committees, Section 4-11-6, department reports. And this is seeking the Board of Selectmen to report at each annual town meeting and in the town report all town-owned property, the size, the value, and the town use of it. And so that one will be very interesting to find out what the petitioner's seeking on this. I know at one point there was an article, one of the petition articles was to have that property offered for sale, but then that one was, I don't believe that one went forward because you can't order the Board of Selectmen to sell property. But this one is now going to be interesting on the seeking of this information, because all town property is actually listed and it has its assessment. So that is the completion of our 65 articles, and I must say we did 65 articles in under 60 minutes. And so I thank Mary MacKinnon for assisting me, Chairman of our Finance Committee, and as I indicated, Mary will be doing her full report of the finances of the town of Kingston at the beginning of the budget, which is our Article 24. So I hope that everybody will be there to hear that, again, the full report. And then I also want to remind everybody that, yes, we've moved town meeting. It originally was scheduled in April, and it got moved to May. And now we're on these days, so we did miss our Saturdays because of the fact that they just weren't available in the school. We're in graduations, we're in school projects, concerts, and everything else going on, so we were unable to schedule an actual Saturday town meeting, which certainly has an impact, I feel, more so on our seniors, because the meetings now are all at 7 o'clock at night and likely going to 10, 11, 12. I mean, we've gone to 1 at different intervals. So I do ask, though, everybody to take this very seriously, to still appear and come and participate in town meeting. Again, it's our legislative body, and it's your vote that counts on every aspect of our legislative body, meaning the bylaws, amendments, anything else, in our budget and everything else that's going on. So I do request, and I hope that everybody will appear, just even if it's just to come and listen, but appear and also to offer up your voice. That's always a wonderful thing. I love when I hear democracy at its best, of voices being heard. And we will hope that, again, we're looking at 65 articles, so we hope people are concise and limited in what they're saying, to be on point with us, because we certainly want the meeting to go in an efficient manner. So anything else you can offer to our citizens regarding town meeting? I know we have about a couple minutes left here.
A town meeting, as you said, is sort of the single most important democratic process that we have available to our residents. They are the legislative body of our community. You know, our Board of Selectmen are our executive body, and then we have a lot of department heads, but the residents of this community are the legislative body by virtue of town meeting. And their vote has a direct and immediate impact on things that happen here in the community. So I truly encourage and echo your sentiments for everybody to get out and participate. It's not as scary as some people may think it is, so I encourage everyone to come on out and participate.
And if you've never come sit in the back. Listen. Yeah. Listen to what happens, what process is. Yeah. If you see Mary, you see myself, Lindsay Wilson, who's our new chair of the Board of Selectmen, we're all more than willing to answer any questions that anybody would have about the process. Clearly, I'm up on the diaz, but during different times at the beginning, I always make myself available an hour before. So if anybody has any questions about what's on, what has to happen, what could occur, and I'm always available at janetmwallace@gmail.com for any questions that anybody may have.
Fantastic.
So thank you, Mary, for participating, and thank all of you for watching, and I hope to see you on May 23rd.
Thank you.
It is May 23rd, yeah. All of a sudden, I said 1 second. Oh, did I cite the right date?
May 23rd.
So, May
See you
23rd.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.